Welcome everybody to another episode of Community Voices. I know it's been a while. It's been doing some housekeeping, maintaining, getting things put together, but we're back, continuing our mission to impact community, give back, uplift voices, and just having conversations more than ever. So welcome back everybody to Community Voices today. Again, I say this often because these episodes sometimes are just like they're so important, they're so big, and the conversations that we have are so important. But this one for me personally is like a really big, a big one for me. It's one of my favorite times, and we haven't even started talking yet. But there's somebody who I've seen who is a person who's he's multi talented. He's somebody who I've been following for some years, and I can speak to his work, his craft, his community build, things that he does for himself, the things he does for his community, and the things that he just really a lot of his work is just so purposeful, which is really what Community Voice is all about. He's a multidisciplinary creative. He constructs film, photography, creative direction, experimental design. Like I could probably keep going because he does not like boxes. But Adrian, welcome to Community Voices, man. How you doing?
I'm good, man. Thank you, Devin. That was an incredible intro. That makes me feel like I'm all right at what I do. Thank you, man.
Nah, you're more than all right, man. Like I said, I'm just very grateful, appreciated for this time, and the smile is probably what shows how appreciative I am more than the words. So.
Man, likewise, likewise. I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely. So I'm gonna go ahead and get into it because I know I spoke to, like a testament to your work and the things that you've done. But for those, you have interviews out there that kind of explain your work and your story from more bottom up, more detailed. But for those who may not be as familiar from our side, or this is like their first introduction, how would you kind of describe who you are, and more so like the biggest moment that kind of landed you to where you are today?
So I've been, I guess, a professional filmmaker since I was 21. I'm 34 now. I've had a camera in my hands for as long as I can remember, and I remember when I was 19 in college, I knew this is secretly what I wanted to do. And I kind of secretly went down that path, and I ended up here. Most of my career, I was behind the camera up until the beginning of 2023 is when I finally started posting myself in front of the camera. And I'd say that is the most defining part of my filmmaking career where it's currently at. But there's so many little things, pivotal moments that take me here, 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 and here. And, the butterfly effect, if things hadn't gone that way, some of them incredibly good things and some of them incredibly bad things. Um, I got to give that credit too. But for where I'm currently at, I'd say the most definitive thing for my current filmmaking career is putting myself in front of the camera, which I would have never thought. Um, I'm such a behind the camera person, so it's really yeah, it's I wouldn't say weird, but I just never would have thought when I aspired to be a filmmaker, my career would ever be in front of it.
I feel that. I feel that because and I always think about that too because it was almost like it was that moment of like I want to say a level of discomfort because it's a very different aspect going into like your creative craft, like being from behind the scenes, the direction, all that to actually being in front of the camera and actually for a minute managing both. I can only imagine that like it kind of speaks. And again, I was talking to your career. I think it speaks to that testament of like what happens when you lean into discomfort and how it can actually cause you to grow, even though it doesn't feel good. Like I feel like your career
Oh,
was you leaned into
absolutely.
it and it just like did so much. But I'm pretty sure in the beginning it's just like, oh, like that's me over there this time.
Yeah, I felt the world shifting. I went from directing a lot of music videos and commercials, short films and whatnot, to directing what these music labels and companies would call premium video content. And I was like, man, y'all are spending a lot of money on this. Wow, these are getting a lot of views. Like they're spending a fraction of what they spent on the music videos gaining more, I guess, whatever their returns are looking for, they must be getting them. And I just saw a pocket that needed to be filled there, and I wanted to give it a shot. And which I mean, everybody's been making content for a long time, but I guess at that premium level, not so much yet.
And I think you talk about speaking to content. I feel like I'm definitely like the lines of what a content creator. I don't want to say they're blurred, but they can be very vague. And I think the one thing about that I love about your story that I think I always try to even remember when I'm like doing my own creative pieces or talking with somebody who is, I can tell is in that same mind state. And correct me if I'm wrong. A good amount of your work or this creation in that time period came from you wanting to see the things that like weren't there. There was something you felt was missing. It just didn't feel like it was really giving life as it should. It was kind of getting stale, and you're like, I want to create the things that I wish were being created. I got to create those things. Kind of like solve that. I don't want to say problem, but solve that gap myself.
Yeah,
Is that I'm correct? Am I correct there?
100%. Around that time too, it just so happens to be I wasn't feeling inspired by the things that I saw on social media. I mean, even whether it's now, whether it was 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, you know, people see this thing that's popular and it's working, and then people want to follow that trend. We were in a time when I started, like I'd say end of 2022, everybody's videography, filmmaking content looked really similar. And it was coming from folks who just made content. I know there was a lot of artists out there. There's a lot of great pure filmmakers out there, but they didn't exist on short form platforms. They were all on YouTube.
Yeah.
And a lot of folks on the shorter platforms would take from the YouTuber style, which is great. That's fine. We're all inspired by those folks. But yeah, I just wanted to make something a little different. I wanted to be more about telling stories than I guess regurgitating what everybody else is already saying.
I love that you mentioned that because I think that was my next piece to it, right? I think we talked about the there's a thin line between inspiration and creativity, right? Like it's like the old
Yeah.
Virgil saying, like this is a piece of trash in my hand, but you put it in an art gallery, it's a piece of art. Like there's a thin line. I would love to know for you, what how do you walk that thin line of being inspired, but also like being like making things your own, where it's like this is like a me production. This isn't something like how do you kind of walk that thin line for yourself?
Oh man, I could talk hours about this. I actually just made something recently that touched upon this, and it is a thin line. Things could get blurred and people could get sensitive about it. Like what's art, what's content, what's original, what's stolen, here's the thing. I could break it down like this. Nothing is original, but you are original. The creator is original. I think somebody can make the same thing like this. Let's just call it a piece of video content. Let's say a tutorial, right? Everybody is inspired by a style, whether it's Wes Anderson, whether it's Casey Neistat or Quentin Tarantino or myself, right? That's fine. Like I personally take from all of those, all those folks. Wes Anderson plays a huge influence on my cinematography. It's when it comes down to not injecting your own voice into it, your own originality. I think the originality comes from the creator, and if you can't see any bit of, I guess, personality in there, whether it's the person in front speaking or how it personally helps their creativity process, whether it's a tutorial or just anything they're speaking on, then it it feels stolen, which is a lot of that. But there is a great book about Steal Like an Artist, right? You know, uh, Everything is stolen as well, but you steal it so well and you hide it so well, it becomes original.
Right.
And that comes from within, right? Like there's nothing original about me making a video as to why this filter that I'm using gives you motion blur. But there is something original about why it helps me. How nobody told me at the beginning of my filmmaking journey, this makes your footage look more cinematic. There's little things like that that make it you. Now, the format, not original. The subject matter, not original. But I think if you put your own perspective to it, then it makes it yours. And that goes for everything, whether it's a cooking video, whether it's painting and whatnot. I think you have to try really hard to inject yourself in your work. And I think that's why there's our favorite artists are one of ones.
Mm.
And when somebody tries to make something similar, we all know it, especially in music and in fashion, like,
Facts.
and it's not even you look at a replica of like even I don't know, Air Forces, you're like, oh, that's the cheaper version of the thing. You never want to be that. You want to be unique on your own, and I think people should strive for that because all art on the internet is content, which we should strive for, but not all content is art. And I think if you inject yourself into it and your unique perspective, and if you strive for art, then you'll be fine.
I want to let that breathe a little bit because there's a lot of value, a lot of gems in there that you mentioned. But I think this also plays into my next question perfectly because you mentioned basically like how what really helps you walk that thin line is how do you integrate yourself into the art, whether it's voice, whether it's viewpoint. I mean, I've seen videos where like I can't remember. It was like a digital spaghetti video, and he was saying I can't remember the details, but he was basically saying like the guy recognized that the character has a certain trait. So every angle he did made sure that they leaned into the trait. So it was like if he was alone, it made sure it was like super close because he was comfortable. But because he had a hard time in like settings that were full of people, when it was full of people, they made it really wide. So you felt that anxiousness of like being so
Yeah.
small, big place. And I'm like, there's like again, has that been done before? Probably, but the way that you do it, the way you integrate those things, and so I say all that to say it is also API month. And one thing I mentioned there, like one thing that you I think did so gracefully, and it was the reason why I even like I was like I have to make sure I work with him. The way that you
Thank you.
approached that storytelling during that time last year, from just a personal perspective, was amazing and phenomenal. It was something that I think that I don't even think I can replicate. Rather, of like working with like the Max partners, working with the homies like Tui and them, like just like how
Yeah.
you brought things together organically, tapping into your story, the story of your friends around you in the community, in a way that was just like not like, hey, it's this time of the month, I'm gonna do this or do that. It was like, hey, like let me just open up the door a little bit, something you may not see from me all the time, but I want to dive into a little bit deeper. And it felt personal, it felt connected, it gave me a new perspective from like a cultural perspective and just like a creative perspective. I appreciated it so much. So I say all that to
Thank
say
you.
that rich history that you have from yourself, from your grandparents to your family to your friends. I know that's something that you probably that inspires so many stories. I saw an interview with you the other day where you were talking about a film that you wanted to create and like how it was tied into that kind of historical heritage and carrying
Yeah.
over and things like that. So I say all that to say, I guess how do you integrate those moments into your art even outside of this month? Like how do you kind of do you balance it? Is there just certain times where you want to dive into it? Because I know you're always outspoken about it, but how do you kind of integrate those things into your creations?
Well, it goes back into my own originality and unique, spin and voice that I want to put on these things that aren't original. Uh, my culture is something that I can speak upon the best and from my perspective, that it's something that I've lived through, and I think that's something that everybody should make art through the lens of, right? Something that you can speak passionately about, truthfully about, and something that is uniquely yours, which is my experience being Asian American, Filipino American. or even being born and raised in San Francisco, which is a melting pot of different cultures. What is it like being Filipino American amongst Asian Americans? What is it like being Asian American amongst African Americans, Latino, Hispanic, uh, everything around me? Like that is something that only I can speak to very specifically. And I think the strongest content and the strongest films and art is derived from things that you know best. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of experimental artists that are making things that they know nothing about, and it does great. But, the majority of things, it comes from within, and that's just a subject matter that I know like the back of my hand. I know it like the back of my eyeballs. Um, so I enjoy injecting it a lot into, everything from how I dress to how I speak to the food I bring on camera to, I mean, even full on films about that subject matter.
And I think to first off, I want to say before I even go to the next question, I do want to say I also appreciate you doing that and the way that you speak to it in a way where like it's creative, but it's also just like that. The how can I say this? True art, I guess is what I'm saying. Like it is in a way where
Thank
like
you.
this is your experience, and I also know that other people's experience is up to their interpretation, and hopefully my experience could enlighten, can inform, can bring joy, can bring something of like positive progression. And I feel like when you create those things, the way you like put those things together, I think it shouldn't go underappreciated, and it should. As for that, I say thank you for doing that as well and showing
Oh
others the
man,
way through
I
your experience.
appreciate it.
Um, one more thing before we get into the donation piece is that I think one thing I've noticed about you too is that you have like similar to me, you have a big heart and passion for the community. I know we just kind of spoke on
Mm.
it, but I know when it was the LA fires, you made sure, hey, like I know I'm posting on YouTube every day, but I need to stop for a little bit and speak to what's going on in my area. Whether it's like violence in the community, you made sure to make a piece about
Mhm.
speaking to how that's wrong. I'm speaking out against hate and like we gotta protect each other and just like
Yeah.
using your platform again to I think the most I don't want to say brilliant, but the most like heartwarming thing for me is that you're able to speak to the issues that you care about, that you're passionate about, in a way that still flows with your story. It actually makes what you're saying even more powerful instead of it being such a big break. I feel like the way that you approached it was like
Oh,
it was
thank
just
you.
like very tasteful. And I say all that to say, where does that heart come from for you? Like this passion, this like love, like and not everybody. Some people when they get to where you're at, some people unfortunately, it it doesn't affect them, so they don't necessarily care until it hits home. But for you, you feel it, you feel people, you help people, you have that heart and passion for it. Where does that come from?
Man, a few different reasons. One is I'm a I'm gonna say like I'm a huge empath or empathetic person, but man, I be crying watching movies. I be crying watching TikToks. I
Same.
cry and I feel deeply for the dog who didn't get adopted or the last dog at the shelter. And I'm like, man, come on, man. Somebody get this dog, please. So that's part of the reason. Two is I wouldn't have this platform if it wasn't for the community around me. And, I know for some folks, they don't feel like it's their responsibility, whether it's an athlete or, a film director. But to be completely honest, like I think we do have a responsibility with the voice that we have. And I think you should only speak about things that you know and that affect you deeply. Otherwise, you're going to go out there on the internet looking like a fool, you know? Speaking about something you don't know, people can see right through that. So, when it comes to whether it's the fires out here in my backyard or seeing Asian hate crimes go up, like those are things that I know about, have seen firsthand, and I with the community that I have and have been blessed with, yeah, I feel like I need to. you know? And if not me, then who? I mean, there's a lot of folks doing it, but like, I think I hit a pocket of folks where there's not that much crossover. Some filmmaker from Arizona or Texas or, Madagascar or, Germany can know about something that's affecting us in that directly around us, and I think it's important to get that kind of not just awareness but like empathy to what's going on in the world. um and I know there's a balance of how much of that you should take in, but I think just being aware, and thankfully a lot of this, I guess, success and having a platform came to me at an older age. Like, if I was 22 or 24, I wouldn't know how to act. Maybe I would forget about where I came from. Maybe I would I wouldn't know how to be grounded. But yeah, I think just maturing a lot and knowing how much responsibility that being in a position like this holds, like it keeps me accountable.
I love that, and I think it again. I felt like the question is just perfect because again, it's something that you're continuing to do even right now, as we're working with you to also give back, continuing to uplift community, have an impact, and also not just have an impact in the community, but we also are very aware it's AAPI month. And I'm saying AAPI month. I could say the whole thing, but I know how I speak, and I will stutter, I will fumble.
It's
So
it's a lot of letters, man.
I just have a pronunciation issue, so I already know how it will go. It'd be a 2 minute edit, but it is that month, and also, so I love that we're giving back to California-based Seniors Fight Back Foundation. We'll be donating 7.5K to that foundation, which is phenomenal. I actually learned about it through this moment as well. For those who aren't as familiar, they are continuing to the mission to give back. They are a California-based foundation provided tools and resources to the community to be able to protect and defend themselves, striving to protect and defend our elders by sharing tools, knowledge, and resources. This is honestly one of the first times I've really heard of something like this, which to me was just like phenomenal as somebody who is also a big empath,
Mhm,
really cares deeply about people of all ages, but especially our elderly community, our
mhm,
grandmothers, our grandfathers, our great greats. I think this is such an amazing cause and foundation. And I think speaking to that history, I know you have, you mentioned earlier, your family has like a very, very rich history as well. And there's so many stories that I really can't wait till you bring to life in some kind of vision, which I'm really excited for in the future. Um, Knowing that fight that they went through, knowing them stories that they have and have passed on and that are maybe even still there, um, how do you feel? How do you feel that charity kind of represents that and helps to kind of protect those things? Like, how do you kind of feel that charity and that history of yours kind of like play in together?
well, first and foremost, thank you. I'm so honored and so happy that y'all are able to donate to them. They're a charity that I've worked with before, and honestly, I haven't seen anything like this. And if there are more, man, please let me know. I think the elderly community is such an overlooked community. I think it really is tragic how just how we just kind of let them go out, man. And some folks disrespect them, not even disrespect them, disregard them. And so yeah, it really is an honor to be able to do that on your behalf. So with in terms of my family, my mom is pushing to be a senior now, you know what I mean? And like, gosh, God forbid something crazy happen to her. You just never know nowadays, right? And I think it's important to give them the tools. I think it's important for them, not even just the tools, like to mentally feel more confident. So those two things tie in with each other strongly, and my mom takes public transportation a lot, and I just one, she's a strong woman to be doing that. She was just doing that today. She went on a like an hour-long commute. Oh, hold on, let me turn this off. She went she went on an hour-long commute on a bus to go to one of her doctor's appointments, and she does that often. And she does it by herself. Unfortunately, I live, an hour's flight away, and I can't take her to all of them. But I think that nonprofit is just a testament to not just my mom's resilience, but to a lot of elderly resilience. You know, it's not a race thing. It's not just our month thing. There's a lot of families who are immigrants out of this country that feel lost, don't have the confidence, feel like, walking out there could be a coin toss, but they do it. They do it all the time. They come here, you know, they they strive for the American dream, and a lot of them do great things. I think what they do is just a testament to all of the strengths from whether, like, no matter what race you are, if you come here and you're making a living for yourself, whether you're just getting by or if you've done really, really well for yourself, I think that's a fight that a lot of a lot of immigrant families have, and a lot of elderly folks have gone through. So I think it was a perfect fit.
I love that, man. I love that being like that tie-in. Now, like I said again, it's for me too. I had never heard of it. Thought it was such a great cause, and if there is more causes like that, of course, like continue doing the work. But like I said, I appreciate you even working with a team and bringing that to this spot so we can give back to such a charitable cause. So I love this. I want to make sure I continue to respect your time. I want to hold you up too long, even though I could interview this. I could do this all day.
Man, I could chat here all day too, man.
So before we bring this to a close, I got two more questions. The one before the last one I want to ask is, we talked about it earlier, how long you've been self-taught. I think what comes with being self-taught is that you gain a level of expertise at a different learning curve, and you experience and learn things in a different way. You're able to retain information in a different way. You're able to kind of see things in a different way from not kind of being taught like a plus b equals c formula, which is neither learnings is bad. Everybody learns differently.
Yeah.
But I think with so much experience from an independent and professional side of things, you're able to definitely consider yourself as a very high expert, a professional at your craft, at what you do and what you see, and knowing the meticulous things that things need in order to be great or to get a vision to come to life. But with all those things considered in your craft and as much free game as you give to others, I think that's like been my favorite part of the craft, like being able to learn whether I can apply it right now or not. What is something that you're still struggling to get better at in order to be able to execute your vision in a way that takes your craft and your art to the next level? Like, what is that thing where you're now kind of a beginner, a self-taught learner at again that you're trying to get down so that you can take your stuff to the next level?
I'm always a beginner at pushing myself to make things that make me a little uncomfortable. Uh, I know it's a really broad stroke of an answer there, but just trying new things, whether it's a new format, a new story, it, it's because when you make something, or at least when I make things, it's a reflection of like what's inside me, and to share what's inside me it makes you really vulnerable, and protecting that is something that I don't want to say I struggle with, but like it's still the hardest part, right? Like I just uploaded a video today about who do you make things for? Who do you create for? And it has nothing to do with, it's not shareable content. It's not something that I know it's going to do really well because it's something that teaches you a hard filmmaking technique. I talk about, I create for my inner child. And that's a
Mm-hmm.
subject that it's very philosophical. It's like it's just like a mental subject, right? Uh, and things like that still scare me to put out there because I'm speaking so vulnerably. I'm using footage that's really close to me. I use like footage that's when I'm like a toddler, you know, uh, 3, 4, 5, 7 years old. Uh, so things like that, just pushing myself to be more vulnerable, and not to say that I always am, but I know these smaller, not so viral pieces of content hold a lot of weight if it catches people. right? It's going to catch a smaller crowd, but that smaller crowd that views it, it holds a higher, or I'd say a heavier weight in a lot of ways, because it teaches them something about themselves rather than teaches you, the best lens to use when capturing conversation. Like I always know those videos are going to do well, but it's things like these that I want to push myself more to just say, go do it. Go make the thing that that speaks truest to you. And yeah, and something and doing those, I don't want to say completely original ideas, but like doing those things that, not many people push to do. Um, that's something that I struggle with. But I mean, I don't want to say it's a huge struggle, but it's just something that I tend not to do as much.
I think this is the perfect way to close this out. So saying all those things, you're always working, whether it be in your mind thinking of what you want to create, or actually creating the things that you want to create, or handling the business of of your business. Um, to some, you're living the dream. You're living out their dream. You're doing the things they want to do. You have all those things. But I can only imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, for you, this is a small percentage of what your actual dream looks like. We're in one room of the mansion of your dreams in your world that you want to
Yeah.
bring to life. What is the current dream you're working on bringing to life right now? And how does it play into the long term? I guess more so, like if I'm using the house analogy, right? If we're seeing one room in this mansion of your dream, what is the next room that you're currently working on that's going to be a part of that big mansion?
I like that you use that analogy because to be completely honest, if I'm if this is, you know, a 10-bedroom mansion, I feel like seven of those rooms are built out perfectly.
Mm,
Um, if all these social media platforms were taken away, I have nowhere to put my art anymore for the masses to see it. I'd be okay.
wow.
I I feel like I got to accomplish something and cement what my artistry is like in that small fraction of time in media, in art, in content creation. And I'm so grateful for that. Um, you know, I, man, if it all ends here, I'll go be a teacher somewhere. I'll go make smoothies somewhere, man. I'll make coffee, and that's not to say I'm sitting on a mountain of cash. Like I will work the rest of my life. Words can't describe how grateful I am of these past 2 years I've been creating content, and then the past 10 to 12 years I've been behind the camera before that. Do I feel like I need to do more? I don't feel like I need to do more. I want to do more. What those next rooms look like is just, it all feels like passion projects. It feels like I got a cake and I got three cherries on it. And like, now what do I do for a cake topper? And that cake topper is maybe direct a feature film someday, maybe make some sort of foundational type thing where underprivileged kids or people who don't have access to technology learn something about art and how art can help find their voice and speak for them, because for me I always felt like playing an instrument or making something spoke more than words could ever speak for me. I
Mm.
don't think I could articulate myself in words as well as I could articulate myself through art, and that's something I would love to do. And those are things, whether I do them or not, you know what I mean? Those are things that like I just aspire to do that's related to where I'm at today. But if I keep doing the same thing every day, like I wouldn't be mad. I feel like I wake up every day with the greatest job. I get to speak to people, I get to make things, I get to there's a lot of people here that I still love that are alive. And that's the most important thing for me is cherishing that time. I know what it's like to lose a lot. So I think that's why, for me, if all of this ends, it's like, cool. I'm gonna go spend time with people I love even more, you know? And that's where I want my life to be. I think I think we perpetuate this hamster wheel of a thought that you have to be on it. I think it's okay to step off. And that's not to say like I don't aspire to go full force and 100%, but I think I also know it's important to balance that with your expectations and your mental health, because if you feel like you don't have enough, then you're already like starting from behind.
I honestly don't even want to speak after what you just said. I think that is such like I believe in letting things breathe. I know sometimes in an interview you can't just like have an awkward silence, but I think that is a beautiful way to bring this to a close, man. Adrian, I can't thank you enough for again the work that you do, the honesty that you put in your work, and every time you speak, and again the time for today to give back, to speak your piece, speak your story, and just what we all came here to do: give back, leave the world a better place than we found it. So, Adrian, I can't thank you enough, man. I appreciate you so much.
Man, likewise, Devin. Thank you so much for giving me a place to speak and a platform, and giving back to Seniors Fight Back. It's been a great conversation, man.
Absolutely. And thank you, everybody, to tuning in to another episode of Community Voices. Until next time, take care.
Peace.